Hi, I'm excited to be before you. My name is Kishen Newton, and I am in the beautiful city of Grand Rapids, Michigan, in the United States. And so I am excited to present to you a presentation. So I am going to share my screen. So I'm excited. I want to thank you once again for being a part of the HerStory Women's Global Empowerment Movement, this online summit. And my topic is going to be You Are Called to Purpose. So, who am I? I am Kishen. I am a mother of four amazing adult children. I'm an author. I am a university professor, a podcaster. I own a digital TV channel that is global. I am also an international speaker, as well as a coach and an entrepreneur. And what I am becoming, in addition to what I am an intercessor. I am an overcomer. I'm a woman of faith, and I am the wife of my future husband. So we're all called to purpose. So the day I was born, my mom had just graduated from high school. Can you say purpose? Yes. And as babies, our innocence is what makes us so precious. That is my baby picture. As an infant, my life was almost taken. A relative tried to suffocate me with a pillow. Well, at least that's what I was told, but can you say purpose? When I was 3 years old, I had a dire situation. I had been seen by a pediatrician who was not able to figure out what was wrong. My scalp had developed these sores that had become pus filled, and they were just trying to figure out what to do with me. And so they took me to the hospital. I was in the hospital. They were trying to figure out what was going on. And I remember being in the hallway of the hospital. And I was 3 years old. I'm standing in the hallway. And so they're trying to check me in. And I remember standing there. I had no clothes on. And I just felt something just wasn't quite right. So they weighed me in the hallway, took me back into the room, and they started to shave my head. So they cut it first, and then they shaved all of my hair off because they were trying to get to these sores that were in my head. And during the hospital stay, I remember at night, I would be looking out of the window and I would see this weather ball. And if it was green, that means that the weather was going to be the same. If it was red, that means warmer days were ahead. And so I remember looking out the window at night and I would see this weather ball. And then the nurses would come in and they would take me out of my bed. I'm 3 years old. And they had this brush, this hard bristle brush, like a scrub brush. And they would take it and they would scrub my head until it bled. And I'm 3 years old. And as I'm screaming and I'm fighting, of course, this was the time when parents were not allowed to stay overnight in hospitals. So I would be crying and screaming, and she would take this big jug of water and dump it over my head. And so I'm gasping, I can't breathe, I'm asthmatic, I'm having all these issues. I'm thinking I'm about to drown. But then when I would get all dressed up and cleaned up after being dumped with water, the weather ball was sort of like my solace. But then I had a grandmother, my maternal grandmother. She was a praying woman. She got wind of what was happening at the hospital. And so she called her friends in, her saints. She called the saints in. And they came up to the hospital and they prayed over me. And they laid hands on me with their anointed oil. And so they just tried to figure out, by way of a connection with God, to get me out of there. And after lots of prayer, and lots of laying on of hands, my mom reached out to her doctor, who happened to be a dermatologist. And so he came in, he looked at my head, and he said, "You take this baby out of the hospital right now." And I was brought home. They actually gave me some topical cream on my head, and that began the healing process of my head. Now, what I failed to mention is that I was told that the only way to cure my head was to remove the top 2 or 3 layers of my epidermis, which means they would remove all of my follicles and I would never grow hair again. Say it with me, purpose. So when I was about 5 or 6 years old, here's a picture of me and my dad and my sister. We were at a basketball game at this time, but there was this blue-haired lady. Now, I mentioned that I was asthmatic. And so at the age of 5 or 6, the blue-haired lady would come and talk to my grandma. And they lived across the street from each other. And my grandma must have shared with her that I was having these issues with asthma. And so what she suggested was that in our backyard, and these are pictures of a pine tree. So in my backyard, there was this pine tree. And she said, if you take the baby out and measure her height against the pine tree and put a gash there, when she outgrows it, her asthma will be gone. Um, so I remember periodically going to watch to see if I was outgrowing. And I don't know, I turned 7, turned 8, 9, 10, 11. I don't remember at what age it was, but I didn't have asthma anymore. So I'm 12, 13 or so going into middle school. And I just remember being bullied. I remember being cornered in the stairwell by these 2 girls. I don't know why they didn't like me. They didn't like me for whatever reason, but I stood up for myself on this particular day. And that's when I started to really gain my empowerment. That's a picture of me when I was in 7th grade, that innocent face. But just think of all the kids who have been bullied, but you overcome that. So I'm in high school. I am on pom pom. I was a captain. I received my varsity letter. I was in junior achievement. We traveled. I was senior class president. I was involved in pageants. I received scholarships. Life is great. I go on to the university, Michigan State University, as a matter of fact. Went to school there. I came from under my parents' tutelage and guidance. And so, yeah, I got involved in some things I probably shouldn't have. But when I graduated, that's when life became real. So I'm living on my own. I have a job, I have a house, I have a car, and I get married. Get married, and lots of things happen. I'm living the dream, right? So in the midst of living the dream, my dream turned into foreclosure. It turned into infidelity. It turned into job loss. It turned into vehicle repossession. It turned into termination. It turned to another vehicle repossession. So what do you do when all of this stuff is coming at you? What did I do? I began to spiral. Almost to the point of having a nervous breakdown. And it was so bad that I really don't know when I came out of it, but at some point I started to like who I was again. And I remember I was in this parade and I'm walking and I thought, I like me. I like me. And so can you say purpose? There is purpose in your pain. So I began to set goals. I wrote goals and I began to share people what my goals were. And as I thought about what that looked like, and I started to see a direction, that's when you learn who's a part of your tribe. So as I share this story about purpose, who's in my tribe? My parents. That's a picture of my mom and my dad. My dad passed away about a year ago. But he and my mom, they were always supportive of me and my siblings. There's a picture of my paternal grandmother and grandfather, and that's the grandmother who was talking to the blue-haired lady, who was talking about what I needed to do to get rid of asthma. And that's my maternal grandmother. She came in there, she laid hands on me. She prayed, she brought the saints in, she took out her Bible, and we got rid of that stuff that was going on in my scalp. Then you have Sherilyn. Sherilyn was one of the young ladies who traveled with me, who was on Pom Pom with me, and who also participated in some of the pageants, or at least one of the pageants with me. Then there's Susie. When I was having these spiral moments after my divorce, and life got even worse at some point, she was there. She had a listening ear, but then she also was there to help me through many of those dark moments. And then there's God Sister number one. We pray a lot together. We share things with each other. And even when I was having those moments of, feeling hopeless sometimes in life, she was right there to assist in many ways, spiritually, financially, and then also just with a listening ear. And what can I say about my son? Always there to encourage. But again, these are people that are part of my tribe. And then last but not least, my three amazing daughters. We went to vote that day. So when you talk about purpose, purpose is even more than what you think it is, because when you get the right people involved in supporting you, that helps you to reach your purpose. So I am a woman of purpose. So what's your story? My podcast and my digital TV show is called Stories with Kishen, Ordinary People with Extraordinary Lives. So I'm an overcomer. You too can be an overcomer. Maybe some of the situations that I experienced, you experienced too. Maybe you've experienced divorce. Maybe you've experienced home foreclosure. Maybe you felt so hopeless that maybe you wanted to end your life. Maybe you lost a job. I've lost multiple jobs, but I am on purpose. This is who I am today. Despite all of the hardships, despite all of the situations that I have experienced, sometimes not even knowing a way out, but that picture of me writing goals, this was a part of what I was writing with my talk show. This is a part of what I was writing, becoming an author, becoming a speaker, becoming a university professor. But it doesn't stop there. There's more to me than even meets the eye here. So as I wrap up, I want you to think about all of what I shared with you that I went through and know that I've overcome that. So you too can overcome that. So as you begin to overcome, you begin to look at ways that you can get beyond where you are, get from being stuck. Think about those stories that I shared and look at where I am now. If you would like to get in contact with me, I would love to hear from you, whether it's to speak, whether it's to share my story. If you're interested in being a part of my podcast or on my digital TV show, reach out to me. Here's my contact information. I want to thank the entire HerStory movement, global empowerment movement. I want to thank Gertrude for inviting me and everybody who's involved in this process. You can follow me on LinkedIn. You can follow me on Twitter at Kishen E. You can follow me on Instagram at Just Kishen. And you can also follow Stories with Kishen on Facebook. And if you want to check out my website, feel free to go to www.Kishen, spelled KISHENNEWTON.com. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, you were created for purpose.